Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Doodleman149, and today I'll be giving you all my personal review on Season 4 of Battlefield 2042. This review is going to be structured both for those of us who have been actively playing and for anyone who has either left or hasn't played this at all. Because maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to change your mind about something here. This is, of course, going to be my subjective review of the season and the current state of the game, but I will be backing up some of my opinions with facts and data. Before we begin, yes, this is just me. For those of you who came here for Major Doodle, I am sorry, but he's on leave today. Let's just get into this, troops. First thing we're going to look at today is the new map we've been given with Season 4. Yes, the new map. That still hasn't changed. One map per season. Pathetic. This map is called Flashpoint and is based in South Africa. It's a very arid map, quite similar to one half of Renewal. In fact, there are some reused assets here, but I guess that's not something to really complain about. The reused stuff is small scale anyway. However, there are some definitive map flaws here. For one, this map was touted as an infantry-focused map. So for the third season in a row, let me hear you in the back, DICE doesn't know what infantry-focused means. You have the full spectrum of vehicles on display here and even introduced a new anti-infantry ground vehicle into the game on an infantry-focused map? Interesting. But we'll get into that later. Getting back to the map, it's an odd, almost 3-lane design from end to end. There's the northern half of the map that just has roads and basically no cover. The central lane has a majority of the cover and focuses with a long central hill leading to the fuel refinery area where most of the infantry fighting takes place. There's also the southern section, which is also just more roads and other large buildings. Looking at the conquest objectives, Alpha is a large power station of sorts. It's got multiple roads leading into it and it is relatively flat. There is cover, but it's also very easily flankable, a rather hard objective to hold under heavy assault. Bravo objective is just up the road from Alpha. It's flanked by 2 very high hills and has 3 small buildings for cover as well as a catwalk going over the road. The hill basically allows the objective to be fired down into from 2 sides, again, making holding it very difficult. Charlie objective is an oil refinery tower. It has multiple floors and zip lines to access some of these floors. Despite the elevation, this objective has basically no cover from the road and nearby buildings. Verticality is its only strength. Delta is the highly touted underground CQC area. It's just a small road leading to a silo. It's got the large silo as an entrance, a road entrance from under Charlie, and a couple of zip lines from near Echo. There's minimal cover and the objective is small and unimpressive. This is an objective that is fairly frequently taken but basically never fought over. Echo, typically the most chaotic objective, is a medium-sized 2-story building with roof access that can be capped from the roof and just outside the building itself. This building sits on the foot of a range of hills that separates the main fighting areas from the next objective, Foxtrot. This ridgeline is a popular sniper and vehicle camping spot. These vehicles can easily shell Echo, destroying the walls and making it rough to hold. Foxtrot, just over the ridgeline and down the rocky hills, is a very large warehouse-style building that can also be captured from the roof. It has multiple zipline accesses to the roof, a large first floor with verticality and large open sight lines, and there is also a basement that has much tighter close-quarters fighting than anything you'll find on Delta. If you're pushed back to this objective, leaving it can be rather difficult, as to move westward you have nothing but upward hills to push against, which will no doubt contain hidden infantry and camping vehicles. The final objective, Gulf, seems to be a satellite array and has one building that we've seen before on Erica and Caspian. It's a pretty big objective for what it is and frequently features vehicle battles on the ground of the objective itself. This objective isn't contested nearly as much as Alpha for some reason. There are some sneaky tunnels and walkways throughout the map that make getting around the main battle areas a little easier. What I mean by this is that these offer paths between C, D, and E that aren't as exposed to vehicle fire. Overall, this map isn't fantastic. I don't exactly hate it, taking a break from it definitely helps, but that's just for conquest. On breakthrough, this map is heavily unbalanced towards the attacker. Even with the proposed changes to attacker vehicle numbers, the layout of the sectors is the real problem. There's a specific ridge during the B sector fight that only the attacker has access to. The out-of-bounds border for defenders doesn't let them get on the hill at all. This is a similar issue to the B sector on Renewal, where the ridgeline that was previously available to both teams then becomes strictly an attacker position. Breakthrough needs some serious sector rework before it can be considered passable. With this season, we've also received our final specialist for this title, Camilla Blasco, or as she puts it,
Blasco's fine. No title needed.
Blasco is our 4th recon soldier, and she fills a unique role in that she specializes in intel denial instead of acquisition. Her specialist equipment scrambles hostile HUDs and blocks their minimaps in a 20-meter radius. On top of that, any friendlies within the radius are immune to hostile spotting attempts, whether those be active spotting attempts with RB or through the use of technology like Casper's drone, Boris's turret, Pike's scanner, Rao's defensive spotting ability, a Tug's SOFLAM proximity sensor, or the Ranger. Basically, she is an anti-recon recon. Her passive trait also makes her immune to being passively spotted on the minimap, unless she's using unsuppressed weapons of course. This makes her an excellent stealth specialist while also a great defensive specialist to have on a contested objective. I'll go more in depth on her in a future video. Now that we've covered the map more in depth than I was expecting to, and that we've covered Blasco, let's move on to the new weapons we've gotten access to with Season 4. The first gun we have access to is the AC-9, a submachine gun unlockable at rank 10 on the Battle Pass. This SMG has by far the fastest rate of fire in the game, but also probably the worst recoil plot I have ever seen. Its attachments have some interesting effects, and it definitely feels pretty similar to the Automatico from Battlefield 1, but it still is not my favorite. It gets pretty weak and damaged pretty quickly, but the rate of fire can melt people up close. One thing I really liked about this gun is that the reload speed is actually really good on an SMG for once. I was actually surprised by how fast it was. Out of all the 2042 SMGs, I put it at 4 out of 5, only being better than the MP9 personally. Check out my Weapon Workshop video on that when you're done here. The SPH explosive launcher is unlocked at rank 16 of the Battle Pass and is a cheesy as hell assault gadget. It fires 2 sticky explosives before needing a reload. These explosives have basically no drop and are lethal out to 3.5 meters. The explosives will detonate 1.5 seconds after sticking to a target, so you basically have no time to get to an APS to disarm it once struck. Man, is it a cheesy gadget. Definitely needs more of that in this game, don't we? I've got an informational short on it if you're interested. The next weapon we've gotten access to in this season is the RPT-31 LMG. This gun can be unlocked by reaching tier 22 of the Battle Pass. This LMG's base ammo shoots pretty slow, right around 600 RPM, but it has great damage ranges. Its 5-shot kill extends out to 100 meters or so it's on par with the AK's high-powered rounds, except now you have 200 of them. Add in the fact that you can put standard issue rounds and a short barrel on here, and you can go from being a slower firing super long range LMG to an 800 round per minute lead spitter, making this LMG extremely versatile and capable of being fitted for any style of LMG user. It's honestly taken my top spot as my favorite LMG of 2042. Check out my Weapon Workshop on that video when you're done with the AC-9. The third weapon we can unlock is the Super 500 shotgun at rank 34 of the Battle Pass. It's just the super shorty for anyone who's familiar with that. It's got a fairly decent one-shot kill range, a little bit further than 10 meters, but its 3-round capacity can really hold it back. It's not meant to take on hordes of enemies, it's meant to save your ass when your primary's out of ammo and you get jumped at close range. Check out my Weapon Workshop on the Super 500 when you're done with the RPT-31. And lastly, at tier 40 of the Battle Pass, we get our final equipment unlocked, the RM68 Assault Rifle. This weapon boasts a deadly combo of power, accuracy, rate of fire, and no downside suppression. It has CQC ammo that, when combined with its suppressed short barrel, has it pushing 800 rounds per minute while maintaining a 4-shot kill potential out to 30 meters. That's impressive and makes for crazy fast kills. The 5-shot kill range is well over 100 meters, and the high-powered rounds push that to well beyond 200. The only limit of this weapon is its ammo capacity, which maxes out at 30 rounds. Other than that, there is not much to not love about this gun. Check out my latest Weapon Workshop on the RM68 when you get a chance. Next, at the relatively low tier of 28, we unlock our only vehicle for this season, the CAV Brawler, a vehicle that claims to be a transport. It can carry 5 soldiers in total, a driver, primary gunner, secondary gunner, and 2 exposed transport seats. These exposed seats leave soldiers vulnerable to small arms fire, but allows them to utilize all their weapons and gadgets as they normally would. These passengers can also crouch to avoid incoming fire. The driver has access to a smoke dispenser or a close defense system, and a sensor pulse or repair system or an APS. The close defense system is just a 360-degree burst of explosives shot from the sides of the vehicle. It is very effective against masses of infantry. The first gunner has access to either a 40mm canister shot or some armor-piercing round. It also has a coax LMG as a secondary. The second gunner seat can utilize a minigun, a 20mm flak cannon, or a 40mm incendiary launcher. This vehicle also has some neat features. Friendlies can spawn on this vehicle regardless of how full it is. If the vehicle is maxed out, you'll see this icon and will spawn standing next to the vehicle. While this can leave you vulnerable in some cases, it also helps to reinforce that this vehicle is a transport. The Brawler also has a passive sensor array that functions much like Rau's passive ability. It 3D spots enemies that deal damage to it. This vehicle is pretty tough too. It has the health that seems to be roughly on par with the MAV, if not a little less, making it a rough vehicle to solo fight. Combine that with the fact that it can APS and the close defense system, and you have yet another transport vehicle that is far more of an IFV than a transport. Now, if we look at the Battle Pass as a whole, I have some mixed feelings on it, as I usually do. The weapon and gadget unlocks are fairly evenly spread out, but you get your final tangible unlock at tier 40. Surely I don't want to grind to higher levels to unlock more guns, but on the opposite side of that coin, that means there are 60 levels of mediocre cosmetics. This was the last season covered by my gold pre-order condition, and if the Battle Passes keep offering me unimpressive trash like they have been, then I probably won't be buying one of them with my free Battlefield coins. There have been some quality of life improvements made to the game that I feel I should mention as well. They finally added below radar for aircraft, thank goodness. I honestly don't know why it took them over a year to implement this very basic feature. Now I can actually tactically avoid skillless stinger users in the attack chopper. Speeding up the start of the matches by removing basically all the intro cinematics was a great choice. It makes the games feel so much quicker and less disjointed. I also like the pre-round screen that shows your squad and allows you to visually organize your squad, as if your random squad is going to work together anyway. DICE did, however, stop Irish's APS from blocking C5, so that'll be a nice balancing. Notice I said Irish's C5, so I imagine vehicle-mounted APS can still block C5. However, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. For some reason, they took out the Comoros text, so now there's no visual indicator for teammates saying things like "thank you" or "I need ammo." Sure, there are automatic indicators for meds and ammo, but when someone makes a request, you don't know who it is, so it's kind of backtracking for no reason. Squad management still is not a thing. I don't see why it's so hard, but I guess it's just impossible for this team. There was an adjustment to the end of round screens that changes how top players are presented, and the color scheme of this is just terrible. Lots of times the contrast is just so bad on certain map backgrounds, you just can't read what it says at all. Also, the new specialist Blasco has a radar jamming effect from her specialist equipment, and there have been numerous times where this effect stays in play, at least audibly, even after I croak and am in the respawn screen. Really annoying when that happens. Speaking of annoying, a little over a week after the new guns were released, DICE goes ahead and haphazardly alters the stats of the AC-9 and the RPT-31. So much for my videos being accurate for even a fucking week. Thanks for fucking me over, guys. So, what do I think of this season as a whole? Well, at the start, I shared the same sentiments as fellow Battlefield YouTubers like Nordy Morty, where we felt the season overall was just pretty average, if not below average. The new map, Flashpoint, was yet again not an infantry-focused experience as was promised, so that is nothing new. The map itself is fine, but it's nothing extraordinary. They had made some mentions about improved destruction, and as far as I can tell, nothing here is different. Just the same half-assed destruction we've had this entire game's life cycle. The flow of breakthrough is absolute shit, but Conquest plays much better. Below radar doesn't always work, so that's a fun inconsistency. Thank you very much for that, DICE. Regarding Blasco, she's an interesting addition to the roster, I must admit. Most recon specialists focus on gathering intel, Pike's scanner, Rao's hack and passive ability, and obviously Casper's drone. However, Blasco's focuses on intel denial. Her jammer, while extremely annoying for the fact that the audio is still screwy and things are still distorted even after you leave the jamming field, is a great defensive tool for blocking spots and lock-ons. Thankfully, this device cannot be placed on a vehicle. Her passive ability of not being passively spotted also makes her a great stealth choice. She certainly isn't unbalanced, but she's still not going to replace my main recon, Rao. The weapons have been great additions. The AC-9, while initially a widespread ridiculous mess to get adjusted to, quickly became a weapon that I came to greatly enjoy. It's great up close and has a good reload speed, which is something this game has been sorely lacking in the SMG department. I hate that it got nerfed at mid-range, however, because I really don't know who was complaining about that, but it made my weapon workshop inaccurate days after it released, so fuck me. Again, thanks DICE. The RPT is easily my favorite LMG. It's slower but extremely modular and has fantastic ranges. It's definitely not for everyone, but as a traditional support fan, this is a great, strong LMG. The Super 500 is exactly what you expect, a CQC powerhouse with a trade-off being range and ammo capacity. It's easily one of the better sidearms in the games, and it's a great SMG pairing. The RM68 is broken in a few areas. Its default suppression and ridiculous TTK numbers out to a pretty decent range of 40 meters is nuts. I've been finding myself struggling with it as of late, but I'm not entirely sure that's weapon related. When the AC-9 nerf and the RPT buff happened, I am surprised nothing happened to the RM68. The CAV Brawler is the new bane of my existence, mostly because of its pretty fast speed, multiple weapons, high health, and CQC system that all makes this the hardest vehicle to solo fight as an engineer. I've had some decent fun running around with it, but it's a fairly unbalanced vehicle all things concerned. Its infinite spawn capability should also be shared by the MAV, seeing as that's literally an armored transport that never transports people. The battle pass sucks, but it always does. Overall, the season gets a 4 out of 10 for me. The weapons are great, map is underwhelming and a farce, the brawler is unbalanced, and everything else is kinda meh. Overall, my sentiments still stand. This is a lackluster season made even less impressive by all the preseason hype that basically built as nothing substantial. Here's to hoping year 2 isn't complete shit. Again. So, hopefully you enjoyed this look at Season 4, if you made it this far anyway. What do you think of this season? Is my assessment fair, or am I jaded by a year and a half of being lied to by DICE and disappointed more often than not? Don't get me wrong, I still really enjoy the game, but I can also feel that enjoyment slipping away with each new unimpressive season. So that's it folks, nothing more to say. I hope you're all having a great day and I wish you the best because you deserve it. I've been your host, Doodleman149, and until we speak again, I will see you later.